The galaxy had forgotten what mercy looked like. For centuries, the Varkon Empire had ruled the stars with cold steel and fire. They were the oldest and the most feared. Planets burned under their commands and races bowed to them for survival. But there came a day when one small world refused to bow: Earth. To most of the galaxy, Earth was known by another name. They called it Deathworld. It was not because of war or darkness, but because everything on that small blue planet could kill you. Storms, animals, diseases, even the humans themselves. The galaxy believed that no sane being could grow up on such a violent world and remain kind. Yet humans had done it. They had survived their planet and still learned compassion. But the universe rarely gives peace for long. Far away on the edge of Varkon space, a small colony world called Seren 4 burned. Its sky was painted with fire and smoke, its oceans turned black by falling ships. The people screamed into the void for help. Their ships were too few, their defenses too weak. In the command center of Seren 4, Captain Lyra Ven, a young alien officer of the Talani race, stood over a broken console. Sparks rained from the ceiling. Her silver eyes reflected the flashing red warning lights as she pressed the emergency signal button again and again. All frequencies. "Open channel? Please," she whispered, her voice trembling. "This is Seren 4. We are under attack. Anyone who can hear this, please help us." But no one answered. The Varkon ships surrounded the planet like vultures around a dying beast. Their voices filled the comms with laughter. "There is no help coming, little Talani. No one dares to cross the Empire." Lyra's heart broke as she looked at the faces around her. Soldiers, engineers, medics, all preparing for their final moments. The evacuation ships had already been destroyed. Still, she refused to give up. She sent one last signal. A single desperate SOS broadcast far beyond the borders of known space. It was meant to be a goodbye, but it became something else entirely. Light years away, the human frontier in the quiet space between stars, a listening station drifted near the human colony of New Aurora. Inside, a technician named Ethan Cross sipped cold coffee and stared at endless data streams. It was another boring night until a sound cracked through the silence, a sharp tone. Then a faint voice, broken and distant. "This is Seren 4, under attack. Civilians dying. Please, help us," Ethan frowned. The signal was weak, almost ancient in format. The words were trembling, full of fear and pain. He ran diagnostics, then his eyes widened as the origin appeared. "Wait, this is outside the mapped sectors. That's Varkon space." He turned to his superior. "Sir, this is a distress signal from an alien world. They're under attack." His commander, Admiral Raina Holt, walked in, calm but firm. "Play it again." When she heard the recording, the room went silent. For years, the Varkon Empire had treated humans as a curiosity. They kept a fragile peace only because humanity's Deathworld reputation made them cautious. But now that peace trembled, Raina listened carefully. Then she spoke the words that would change history. "Prepare the fleet. No one calls for help and gets ignored. Not while we breathe." The call of humanity within hours, messages spread across every human colony. The SOS had reached them all. It was not just a call for help. It was a test of who they were. Miners left their stations. Engineers powered dormant warships. Soldiers sharpened their blades and checked their armor. Even old captains who once swore never to fight again came out of retirement. On the flagship Valiant Dawn, Captain Marcus Reed stood at the bridge window, staring into the endless stars. He was a man who had seen too many wars, too many losses. But when he heard the voice from Seren 4, something deep in him stirred. He turned to his crew. "Set course for the Seren system." "But sir," said the officer beside him, "that's deep in Varkon territory. If we cross that line, we'll start a war." Marcus smiled faintly, his eyes cold but steady. "Then let it start. Humanity doesn't run from cries for help. The Empire watches on the capital world of the Varkon Empire. The Emperor sat on a throne of black stone. His advisors whispered about the strange human movement on the borders. "Deathworlders are mobilizing," one said nervously. "It seems they picked up a distress signal from Seren 4. The Emperor laughed, a deep sound like thunder. "Let them come. We will crush them before they even reach the planet. These creatures think their small fleets can stand against the Empire." He raised his hand, signaling to his generals. "Send the first Armada. I want their ashes floating above Seren 4. The orders were sent. The Varkon fleets began to gather. Back on Saren for Lyra and her team watched the last defense lines fall. The enemy was now in the sky above the city. Fires consumed the buildings and the air was thick with smoke. She felt her strength fading. The oxygen levels were dropping. Yet she kept looking at the comm screen, hoping, praying. Then something flickered on the radar. A small dot. Then 10, then hundreds. The officer beside her blinked. "Captain." Unidentified ships approaching. "They're fast." Lyra's breath caught in her throat. Could it be? Before she could finish, the sky lit up. The arrival from the darkness of space, the Deathworlders came. Thousands of human ships emerged from warp space in perfect formation. Their hulls were black as night, their engines glowing blue. At the center, the valiant dawn led them, shining like a blade of light cutting through the stars. The human fleet had arrived. Varkon ships immediately moved to intercept. Lasers and plasma cannons filled the void. Explosions flashed like small suns. But the humans did not retreat. They moved with deadly precision, their ships dancing between enemy fire like living beings. Inside her command center, Lyra stared in disbelief as the sky above turned into a storm of light. "Who are they?" whispered one of her soldiers. "Humans," she said softly, tears in her eyes. "The Deathworlders heard us." The humans began targeting the largest Varkon ships. Missiles streaked through space, guided by minds trained for chaos. Every explosion shook the ground below, but this time it was a sound of hope. Lyra watched as the enemy ships started to fall. She couldn't believe it. The impossible was happening. The people who were supposed to be the most dangerous in the galaxy were fighting for strangers. The message of hope. As the battle raged, Admiral Holt's voice echoed through the human fleet's comms. "Remember what we fight for. Every cry for help deserves an answer. Every life matters, even beyond Earth." Her words spread like fire through the soldiers' hearts. They fought not for conquest, but for compassion. Down on Seren 4, civilians began to emerge from shelters, staring at the sky with wonder. The humans were outnumbered, but their spirit was unbroken. And somewhere between explosions and fire, Captain Lyra whispered through her damaged radio. "To whoever you are." "Thank you," a voice replied, firm and calm. "Hold on, Seren 4, humanity's here. You're not alone anymore." End of Part 1A's dawn rose over the battered planet. The battle still burned above. But now, for the first time in centuries, the galaxy had seen something new. A force that did not conquer, but protected. The Deathworlders had answered the call. And the universe would never be the same again. The night above Seren 4 was no longer silent. It was alive with war. Bright streaks of light crossed the heavens, each one marking the path of a missile or a dying ship. The ground trembled under distant explosions as the human fleet clashed with the Varkon Armada. From the control tower of the ruined colony, Captain Lyra Ven stood before a shattered window, her silver eyes wide with awe. She had seen battles before, but nothing like this. The Deathworlders fought like no other species she had ever known. Their ships moved in perfect unity, covering one another like a shield. When one vessel was struck, two more turned to defend it. There was no chaos, no panic, only purpose. Every maneuver seemed to whisper the same promise: "We will not let you fall." The voice of the Deathworlders. Her damaged radio sparked to life. Through the static, a human voice came through, calm but firm. "This is Captain Marcus Reed of the human ship Valiant Dawn. Saren 4, do you copy?" Lyra's heart jumped. She grabbed the microphone, her voice shaking. "This is Captain Lyra Ven. We hear you. We thought no one would come." "We heard your call," Marcus replied. And that was enough. His voice carried something she hadn't heard in years: warmth. He didn't ask for surrender or reward. He didn't even ask who they were. He just fought. In the heart of the battle out in the void, the Valiant Dawn sliced through enemy fire. The ship's hull burned from glancing hits, but Marcus stood at the command deck with unshakable focus. "Target the lead cruiser," he ordered. Lock missiles synchronized with the second fleet. The bridge trembled as cannons fired in unison. Blue trails of light streaked toward the largest Varkon ship, a massive dreadnought armed with planetary weapons. A few seconds later, the explosion lit the darkness like a sunrise. The dreadnought broke apart, its debris spinning through space. A cheer echoed through the human fleet, but Marcus didn't smile. He knew this was only the beginning. They'll send reinforcements soon, he muttered. Keep formation and stay sharp. He turned to his communication officer. Any word from Seren 4? They're alive, sir, the officer said. But their surface defenses are gone. The civilians are trapped underground. Marcus nodded grimly. Then we buy them time. The Empire strikes back far away aboard the Varkon flagship Ravager. Admiral Turok watched the human advance with disbelief. His red eyes narrowed as he slammed a fist on the control table. Impossible. These creatures are from a primitive world. How can they stand against us? His second-in-command trembled. Their tactics are unpredictable, sir. They fight as if death means nothing to them. Turok's voice rose like thunder. Then we'll teach them fear. Prepare the Omega Cannon. Wipe out everything within the orbit of Seren 4. Across the bridge, the Varkon crew obeyed, powering up a weapon large enough to destroy a city in a single shot. The humans saw the energy spike immediately. Red alarms flashed across the Valiant Dawn's screens. Sir, shouted the sensor officer. They're charging a planetary cannon. Marcus clenched his fists. They're targeting the colony, not us. For a brief moment he imagined the faces of those trapped below, children, families, people who had sent that desperate SOS. Not today, he whispered. The human spirit. He turned to his crew. We can't let that cannon fire. All forward ships, form Shield Line Delta. We'll intercept the blast. The crew stared at him in shock. Sir, if we take that hit, then we'll take it together, Marcus said quietly. We came here to protect lives, not count numbers. A deep silence filled the bridge. Then one by one his officers nodded. They understood. Moments later, dozens of human ships moved into position, forming a glowing wall of steel and energy between Seren 4 and the Varkon fleet. The beam the Omega Cannon fired. A beam of pure red light tore through the void, slicing through the stars. The entire planet shuddered as the blast passed overhead. Human ships absorbed the impact, their shields burning, their hulls cracking. But they held the line. One vessel after another began to break apart, but none retreated. Lyra watched from the surface as streaks of fire rained down, the wreckage of brave ships that had saved them. Tears ran down her cheeks. They're dying. For us, she whispered. Her engineer, barely conscious from exhaustion, looked up at her. Why would they do that, Captain? We're strangers to them. Lyra's voice trembled as she answered. Because that's who they are. The turning tide when the beam finally faded, smoke filled the void. The human wall was broken, but not destroyed. The Valiant Dawn still floated at the center, its armor cracked, its engines damaged but alive. Marcus stood amid sparks and falling debris, his hands gripping the railing. Status: heavy damage across all fronts, his officer replied. We lost 22 ships, but the colony is safe. Marcus took a deep breath. Then we're not done yet. He pointed toward the Ravager, still glowing from its cannon blast. That's the one. We take it out and the rest will scatter. His eyes narrowed. For every ship that fell, we strike back twice. The counterattack with engines roaring. The remaining human fleet surged forward. Fighters swarmed from carriers like silver arrows. Missiles locked onto the Varkon flagship. Inside the Ravager, Admiral Turok shouted in rage. They're coming straight for us. Raise shields. But it was too late. The first wave of human torpedoes hit the engines. The second tore through the hull. The third found the Omega Cannon and ignited it from within. The resulting explosion was so bright, it blinded every sensor in the area. The Ravager broke apart, its pieces scattering like burning stars. The surviving Varkon ships began to retreat. The mighty Empire, feared across the galaxy, was running from humans. On the ground shook as the battle above ended. For the first time in hours, the sound of explosions faded, replaced by silence. Lyra stumbled outside with her team. The once blue sky was now filled with smoke trails and debris glowing like tiny embers, yet it was beautiful because it meant survival. A voice crackled through her radio again. This is Captain Reed. Seren 4, the enemy has retreated. You're safe. Lyra could barely speak. Safe? Because of you? No, Marcus said softly. Because you asked for help. You reminded us what it means to be human. After the battle hours later, human rescue ships landed across the colony. Soldiers and medics poured out, helping the wounded, delivering supplies and rebuilding what was left. Lyra finally met Captain Reed in person. He stepped out of his ship, tall with tired eyes but a gentle smile. She saluted him in her people's way. "We owe you everything," she said. "You came across the stars for us." Marcus shook his head. "You don't owe us. We just answered a call that no one else would." He looked at the burning horizon. "We can rebuild this together." The Empire's fear back in the Varkon capital. Panic spread through the halls of power. The destruction of the Ravager was an unforgivable humiliation. The Emperor sat in silence, his claws gripping the armrest of his throne. "How could this happen?" he whispered. "How could a young race, one world, destroy an Empire's fleet?" No one dared to answer. For the first time in centuries, the galaxy's strongest power felt fear. Fear of the Deathworlders, a promise to the stars on Saren 4. The surviving colonists gathered under the open sky. Humans and aliens stood side by side, rebuilding, sharing water, food, and laughter. Lyra watched as children of different races played together, their laughter echoing among the ruins. For the first time, she felt that maybe the galaxy had a chance to change. Captain Reed joined her, his gaze thoughtful. "We've sent a message today," he said. "That strength isn't about power, it's about protecting others." Lyra smiled. "Then may that message never be forgotten." He nodded. "It won't. Not as long as there's a voice crying for help somewhere in the dark." The war was over, or so it seemed. Smoke still rose from the broken cities of Saren 4, and the night sky was filled with the quiet drift of wreckage from destroyed ships. Yet among that destruction, something beautiful had begun. Humans and Talani worked side by side. They cleared rubble, healed the wounded, and rebuilt homes from the ashes. The people who had once been strangers now shared the same meals and the same laughter. For Captain Lyra Venn, it still felt like a dream. Every morning she woke expecting the silence of defeat. Instead, she saw human engineers repairing Talani technology, medics tending to alien children, and soldiers standing guard, not as conquerors, but as protectors. The morning after Captain Marcus Reed stood on a small hill overlooking the main colony. The early light of the twin suns touched his face, and for the first time in years, he felt peace. But that peace was thin, like glass that could shatter with one wrong sound. He turned as Lyra approached, carrying a datapad filled with reports. "The repairs are going well," she said softly. "Our people are finally starting to hope again." Marcus smiled faintly. "That's good. Hope is stronger than any weapon." Lyra studied him curiously. "Humans speak of hope as if it's a shield. But in my world, hope often brings pain. It makes you believe in something that may never come." Marcus looked at her. "Maybe. But without hope, we wouldn't have come here at all." Lyra paused, then nodded. She had no answer to that. The message from Earth hours later. Marcus entered the command tent, where a holographic image flickered to life. Admiral Reyna Holt from the Valiant Dawn's command. Her uniform was torn, her expression calm but serious. "Captain Reed," she said, "Earth Command has received your report. Saren 4 is secure, but we've intercepted encrypted transmissions from the Varkon system." Marcus frowned. "They're regrouping?" "Worse," Holt said. "They've declared a holy crusade against humanity. They call us the Cursed Ones, a species that must be erased from the galaxy." The room fell silent. Marcus felt the weight of her words. He knew the Varkons wouldn't rest after their defeat. Pride was their true weapon. "We'll be ready," he said firmly. Holt nodded. "Earth is assembling a defense alliance. Not just humans. Any world that stands against tyranny. Saren 4 could be the first to join." Lyra, who had entered quietly, heard every word. Her heart raced. "You mean an alliance between our worlds?" "Yes," Holt said. "If you stand with us, you won't stand alone again. A broken world, a new beginning." Later that evening, the colony held a small gathering. Fires burned softly in metal barrels, casting light on faces tired but smiling. Humans shared their food with the Talani, telling stories of Earth, of oceans, forests, and mountains. The Talani told stories of their lost cities, their songs of peace, and their dreams of rebuilding. Children ran around with laughter echoing in the ruins. The sight brought tears to Lyra's eyes. She turned to Marcus. "When I was a child, I was told that humans were dangerous, unpredictable. But now I see. You are dangerous, yes, but only to those who harm others." Marcus chuckled softly. "We're not perfect. We argue, we make mistakes, and sometimes we destroy what we love. But when someone cries for help, we answer. That's what makes us human. Lyra looked at him quietly. And that's what gives me hope. The shadows of the Empire far away in the dark throne room of the Varkon Emperor, fury burned brighter than any star. The Emperor sat alone, his claws tapping against the black stone armrest. Before him, Admiral Turok's second officer, badly wounded, knelt in fear. You lost the Ravager, the Emperor hissed. You let the Deathworlders humiliate us before the galaxy. My lord, the officer stammered, we underestimated them. Their tactics— Silence! The Emperor rose, his armor reflecting red light. You will not make excuses. The Deathworlders will learn the meaning of despair. He turned to his council. Send word to all fleets. Call upon every loyal world. We will build a weapon that no world can withstand. If they wish to save the weak, we shall show them what true power looks like. The council bowed. The war was far from over. The First Alliance Council back on Seren 4 weeks passed. The colony slowly healed. But now new ships filled its skies, human destroyers, cargo vessels, and diplomatic transports from other alien species curious about Earth's power. Inside the newly built Alliance Hall, representatives from 5 different races sat around a large circular table. At the center stood Marcus and Lyra. Lyra spoke first, her voice calm but strong. We all saw what happened. The Varkon Empire can destroy worlds, and yet these humans, these Deathworlders, stood against them for us. If they can fight for strangers, why can't we stand together? A murmur spread across the room. The representatives looked uncertain but curious. Then Marcus stepped forward. We don't want to rule anyone, he said simply. We want peace. But peace doesn't come free. It's something we fight for side by side. He pressed a button on his console, showing a projection of the destroyed Varkon fleet. They call us monsters. Maybe we are when we have to be, but our monsters protect, not conquer. The hall fell silent. Then one by one the representatives nodded. We will join you, said a voice from the back. The Tilani stand with Earth. Another followed. And the Rin Confederacy as well. Soon the room filled with agreement. The Galactic Alliance was born. The calm before the storm later that night, Marcus walked outside the hall staring at the stars. He could almost hear the echoes of engines in the distance. Varkon ships gathering, plotting revenge. Lyra joined him. You should be proud. The galaxy listens to you now. Marcus shook his head. It's not me they're listening to. It's the idea. One message from a dying world brought us all together. Lyra smiled sadly. Strange, isn't it? How something small like a cry for help can move the stars themselves. He looked at her with respect. You had the courage to send that SOS. If you hadn't, none of this would exist. Lyra's eyes glistened. I thought no one would hear it. Marcus smiled faintly. Deathworlders have good ears. The first lesson days later, Lyra was invited aboard the Valiant Dawn to observe human training. She walked through steel corridors filled with soldiers, men and women of all backgrounds united by purpose. She noticed something strange. Their discipline came not from fear, but from loyalty. They didn't obey because they were forced. They obeyed because they trusted each other. Marcus noticed her watching. Surprised? She nodded. On my world, soldiers obey out of duty. Yours obey out of belief, he nodded. We teach every recruit the same thing. Never fight for orders. Fight for those who can't fight for themselves. Lyra smiled. Then I think we will learn much from each other. The warning one night, alarms echoed across the colony. A human scout ship returned from deep space, badly damaged. Smoke poured from its engines as it landed. Marcus and Lyra rushed to the landing bay. The pilot, pale and trembling, stumbled out holding a recording device. Sir, they're coming. The Varkons. Not just a fleet, a whole armada. Hundreds of ships. They've built something new, something massive. Marcus took the device. The hologram showed a dark shape, bigger than any known ship, surrounded by energy storms. They call it the Oblivion Engine, the pilot said weakly. It destroys stars, Lyra gasped. Stars? That's impossible. Marcus's jaw tightened. Not for the Varkon Empire. They're not just coming for Seren 4. They're coming for Earth. The decision that night, Marcus called a meeting of all fleet captains. The room buzzed with tension. We can't fight them alone, said one commander. Their new weapon could destroy us before we reach firing range. Marcus placed his hand on the table. Then we don't fight alone. We fight together, every world, every ship. The Alliance stands now or it dies forever. Lyra stepped forward. The Talani will stand with you. You saved us once. Now we'll fight beside you. Her words carried weight. One by one, others agreed. The Alliance fleet was born. Marcus looked around the room. Then it settled. We go to war, not for revenge, but for every life that believes peace is worth fighting for. A promise in the stars, as the fleets prepared, Marcus found a quiet moment to speak with Lyra once more. They stood near the observation deck watching Siren 4's moons rise. Do you ever wonder, she said softly, what drives your kind to do all this? To risk everything for people you barely know? Marcus thought for a moment. Maybe it's because we've seen our own darkness. We know what it's like to lose everything, so when we see others in pain, we can't look away. Lyra smiled. Then maybe that's why the galaxy needs you. Marcus looked out into the stars. The galaxy doesn't need heroes. It needs people who care. That's all. They stood in silence for a while. Somewhere in the distance the stars shimmered like a promise, one that they both intended to keep. The galaxy was no longer silent. Every world whispered the same word, war. The Varkon Empire, humiliated after their defeat at Siren 4, had returned with something beyond imagination. A weapon that could end stars. A weapon called the Oblivion Engine. The gathering storm from orbit above Siren 4. Hundreds of ships gathered under the banner of the Alliance. Human cruisers gleamed beside alien vessels, their engines glowing with unified power. What was once a small coalition of survivors had grown into an armada that stretched across the blackness of space. At the center stood the human flagship, the Valiant Dawn, scarred from old battles, but stronger than ever. Inside the command bridge, Captain Marcus Reed watched the holographic projection of the Varkon movement. Thousands of red dots glowed like fireflies of death. That's their main force, said his officer, Lieutenant Mira Chen. They're moving toward the Cygnus Rift. If they activate the Oblivion engine there, it could wipe out 5 star systems, including Earth's root. Marcus folded his arms, his expression calm but his heart heavy. They want to erase every sign of the Alliance. They think fear will break us again. He turned to his communications officer. Send word to all fleets. Full battle readiness. We move at dawn. The calm before the battle on the planet's surface. Lyra Ven stood near the newly built monument dedicated to those who fell at Siren 4. Each name was carved into the stone, human and alien alike. The wind blew softly as she placed a small crystal flower at its base. A shadow moved behind her. Marcus approached, his uniform marked with new medals but his face showing old fatigue. You come here often, he said quietly. These people gave their lives so we could build something new, Lyra replied. I don't want to forget that, Marcus nodded. Neither do I, but they didn't die for sorrow. They died so others could live without fear. Lyra looked up at him. Do you ever get tired of carrying so much hope? Marcus smiled faintly. Hope doesn't weigh me down. It keeps me standing. They stood together, watching the stars begin to fade as dawn approached. The Alliance Council later that day. The main officers of the Alliance met aboard the Valiant Dawn. Representatives from the Talani, Rin Confederacy, and even smaller border worlds attended through holographic channels. Our scouts confirm the Oblivion engine is real, said Admiral Reyna Holt, her tone grave. It's not just a weapon. It's a living system powered by dark energy feeding off dying suns. Gasps filled the room. Lyra frowned. How can such a thing exist? Even our ancestors never built anything close to that. The Varkons didn't build it, Holt replied. They found it, buried in the ruins of an ancient civilization. They call it their divine retribution. But it's not divine. It's destruction. Marcus leaned forward. Then we destroy it before they use it. An alien representative shook his head. That weapon is massive. One fleet can't take it alone. Marcus looked around the table, his voice calm but strong. Then we don't go alone. We go together. That's what the Alliance means. The room fell silent. Then one by one, every commander agreed. Departure within hours, engines roared across the stars. The Alliance fleet moved like a single living organism, thousands of ships flying toward the dark horizon of the Cygnus Rift. The void ahead was full of storms, energy fields twisting with light and shadow. It was the perfect hiding place for the Varkon weapon. Marcus stood at the bridge, staring at the vast storm ahead. So that's where they're waiting, he said quietly. Lyra, standing beside him, shivered. It looks alive. Maybe it is, Marcus replied. Let's hope we can kill it. The first strike as the fleet entered the rift, alarms blared. Enemy signatures filled the radar. Varkan ships emerged from the storm like ghosts, black, sharp, and endless. All ships form defense grid, Marcus shouted. Protect the carriers and focus fire on their lead vessels. The void lit up with energy beams and missiles. The first wave of explosions shook the ships. Shields flared and fighters darted between massive cruisers. From her smaller command ship, Lyra directed the Talani defense wing. Squadron 3, cover the right flank. Don't let them circle us. Her ship trembled as a blast struck nearby. Sparks flew, but she didn't waver. Through the chaos, the human fleet pushed forward, breaking the enemy's front lines. For every ship they lost, 2 more pressed on. But then a shadow appeared. A massive shape emerging from the storm. The Oblivion engine, it was not a ship. It was a nightmare. A structure the size of a moon covered in black metal and glowing with red light. It pulsed like a living heart. Rings of energy rotated around it, each one humming with deadly power. The moment it appeared, every ship's system flickered. Gravity twisted. Space itself seemed to bend. My God, whispered Mira. It's feeding on the rift's energy. Marcus clenched his fists. If that thing fires, we're finished. Lyra's voice came through the comm. Captain Reed, my sensors show a core inside the structure, heavily shielded but not invincible. If we can overload it, then it'll collapse on itself, Marcus finished. All ships, target the outer rings. Draw its power away from the core. The battle for the stars, the Alliance fleet surged forward. Beams of light crossed the darkness as hundreds of ships fired at once. Explosions rippled across the surface of the Oblivion engine, breaking through layers of armor. But the Varkans were ready. From the weapon's outer ring, thousands of drones poured out, swarming toward the Alliance like a cloud of metal locusts. We're outnumbered, shouted a pilot. Then fight smarter, Marcus replied. Use gravity slingshot maneuver. Pull them into their own energy fields. The human fighters turned sharply, leading the drones into the storm. Energy lightning struck them, frying their systems. The void burned bright. Inside the chaos, Lyra's ship took heavy fire. Alarms screamed. Shields down to 20%, shouted her engineer. Lyra gritted her teeth. Redirect all power to engines. Get us closer to the core. Her crew looked terrified, but they obeyed. The small Tilani vessel darted between enemy fire, heading straight for the heart of the Oblivion engine. The heart of darkness, Marcus watched her ship move across the holographic display. She's going in too fast, Mira said. She knows what she's doing, Marcus replied, though worry burned inside him. Get us in range to cover her. The valiant Dawn dove through debris, cannons firing nonstop. Massive Varkan cruisers tried to block them, but the human flagship broke through with precision strikes. Inside, the crew worked like one mind, calm, focused, determined. Finally, Lyra's ship reached the glowing core. It was a sphere of light suspended in a cage of energy. She activated her comm. Captain Reed, we're here. I'm sending you the coordinates. If we overload the containment field, it will implode. You'll never make it out in time, Marcus warned. Maybe not, she said quietly. But if we don't do this, no one will. Her crew looked at her, fear and courage mixed in their eyes. Lyra smiled softly. For Seren 4, for everyone who believed we could change. Then she gave the order. Begin overload sequence. The sacrifice Marcus's eyes widened as the reading spiked. She's really doing it. We can't lose her, Mira said. If that core collapses, Marcus interrupted. All ships pull back to minimum safe distance now. The fleets began to retreat, engines burning bright, but the valiant Dawn stayed. Marcus gripped the console. Patch me through to Lyra's ship. Static filled the line, then her voice came through, soft but steady. Marcus, you don't have to do this, he said. We'll find another way. There is no other way. Someone has to stay behind to trigger it manually. The systems are locked. There was a long pause. Only the hum of the ship could be heard. Then Marcus spoke. If this is what you choose, then know this. You didn't die for nothing. You reminded us what it means to be human, even though you're not one of us. Lyra smiled through tears. And you reminded me what it means to believe again. The line went silent. The light seconds later, the Oblivion engine began to shake. Energy spiraled out of control. Lightning spread across its surface as its power turned inward. The entire rift glowed like a sunrise made of fire. From the bridge of the Valiant Dawn, Marcus watched as the structure collapsed, pulling itself into a brilliant white sphere. Then silence. The explosion was quiet, beautiful, and final. The weapon was gone. So was Lyra's ship. Aftermath. When the light faded, the void was calm again. The Varkon fleet was shattered. Those who survived fled into the darkness, their empire in ruins once more. Inside the Valiant Dawn, the crew sat in silence. No one spoke. Marcus stood at the front window, his reflection lost among the stars. Mira approached quietly. "She saved us all," she said softly. Marcus nodded. "Yes, she saved the galaxy." He looked at the distant stars. "And now, it's our duty to make sure her sacrifice means something." The monument weeks later, a new monument was built on Seren 4 beside the old one. At the top, a small crystal sculpture glowed with soft light. Below it, words were carved in both human and Talani languages. "Here rests Captain Lyra Ven, who taught the Deathworlders that courage has no species." Every day, humans and aliens came to pay respect. Some brought flowers, some brought messages, but all left with tears and pride in their hearts. Marcus visited often. He would stand quietly, hands behind his back, eyes lifted to the sky. "You kept your promise," he whispered once. "You made the galaxy believe again." The galaxy breathed again. After the collapse of the Oblivion engine, silence stretched across the stars. The Varkon Empire had been broken, its fleet scattered and its morale shattered. For the first time in centuries, worlds once enslaved or threatened dared to hope. But hope alone was not enough. The galaxy was scarred, planets were destroyed, civilizations weakened, and countless lives lost. Rebuilding would be hard. Yet, even in ruin, the spark of life remained, and it burned brightly in the hearts of the Alliance. The gathering of survivors on Seren 4. Survivors worked tirelessly. Humans, Talani, and members of smaller alien races cleared rubble, rebuilt homes, and shared stories of their loved ones lost. Every morning, Marcus Reed walked through the streets greeting those who had survived, offering encouragement where fear still lingered. He visited the young and the old alike, listening to their tales. He saw children playing among ruins, laughter filling the air that had once only known screams. In a small schoolhouse, children colored pictures of spaceships and planets. One little Talani girl looked up at Marcus and whispered, "Will the Varkons ever come back?" He smiled gently. "Perhaps, but now the galaxy has something stronger than fear. It has friends. And friends fight together, remembering heroes, eh?" New monument stood tall in Seren 4's central square. Crystal sculpture glowing softly in memory of Captain Lyra Ven. Her sacrifice had saved thousands and destroyed the Oblivion engine. Marcus stood before it often, quiet and reflective. The Talani commander, Lyra's mentor, Elder Kethal, placed a ceremonial wreath at its base. "She would be proud," Kethal said softly. "Not just because she saved us, but because she showed that courage has no boundaries." "Her courage lives in all of us now," Marcus replied. "And we must honor it by protecting the galaxy she saved." For the first time, Marcus truly felt the weight of leadership, not as a commander of war, but as a guardian of life. The Alliance expands. Word of the Alliance's victory spread across the stars. Worlds once too afraid to fight reached out to join. The Rin Confederacy offered starship designs and strategic support. The peaceful Orvani sent engineers and supplies. Even distant border planets sent representatives to share intelligence. The human fleet, once small and scattered, became the backbone of a galactic coalition. And with each new world that joined, the message was clear. The galaxy could unite against tyranny, no matter the cost. Admiral Reyna Holt spoke at a council meeting aboard the Valiant Dawn, her hologram broadcast to every member world. "We are no longer isolated. Each life we save strengthens all of us. Each hand we extend builds trust. And each battle we fight together reminds the universe. Hope is not a weapon, but a shield." Every representative nodded. The Alliance had grown, not through conquest, but through courage and compassion. The humans' role on Earth, children studied the stories of the Deathworlders' heroism. They learned of the SOS sent across the void, of the fleets that answered, and of the sacrifices made by Captain Lyra and countless others. The story became legend. not for its destruction, but for its heart. Humanity's reputation, once feared for the harshness of Deathworld, transformed. Humans were now a symbol of hope, resilience, and unity. In space academies, recruits trained under the motto, "Answer the call. Protect the helpless. Never leave a life behind." Marcus walked through the halls of the New Earth Command Center quietly proud. The soldiers, pilots, and engineers before him were not just warriors, they were guardians. And guardians were what the galaxy needed. A message of peace months after the war. Representatives from Alliance worlds gathered on Seren 4 for the first Alliance summit. Flags from every race fluttered in the gentle wind. Marcus addressed the assembly, his voice calm yet powerful. "We have seen the cost of fear and hatred. We have watched the Varkon Empire destroy countless worlds. And we have seen what courage can do. The galaxy is ours not to rule but to protect. Let us vow today that we will stand together always against anyone who threatens life itself." The crowd erupted in applause, the sound echoing across the planet. Lyra's memory, embedded in every word, reminded them why they fought, not for glory but for life. Elder Kethel stepped forward, placing a hand over Marcus's shoulder. "You and your kind have shown that even the smallest voice can change the stars." Marcus nodded quietly. "Then let every voice that cries for help know this. The Alliance will always hear it." The Varkon remnants far beyond the settled worlds, the remnants of the Varkon Empire lurked in the shadows. Their fleets were shattered, their colonies scattered, and their greatest weapon destroyed. The Emperor, now isolated on his capital world, roared in anger and disbelief. "They are not mere humans," he shouted. "They are a plague. Unstoppable, united, and relentless. The galaxy has changed and I have failed." But even in his fury, he understood one truth. The age of the Varkon Empire had ended. The galaxy no longer feared them alone. And the Deathworlders, humans, stood at the center of this new order. Unity and progress. Back on Seren 4, life returned to a steady rhythm. Alien technology merged with human innovation. Fields that had been scorched now grew new crops. Cities that once lay in ruin were rebuilt stronger, better, and more beautiful. Children of different species played together, learning not only each other's languages, but their histories and cultures. Humanity's message spread beyond military might. It spread through friendship, trust, and example. Marcus watched a group of young Tilani children imitate human pilots, laughing and racing across the open plains. "One day," he whispered to Lyra's monument, "you'll see the galaxy you helped save. It's brighter than I ever imagined. The future." The Alliance became a symbol to every star system that oppression could be resisted, that even in the darkest hour, courage and hope could light the way. New fleets were constructed not for conquest but for defense. Education and diplomacy flourished alongside training and strategy. Humanity's influence became not the rule of fear but the rule of example. And somewhere deep in space, the echo of Lyra Ven's sacrifice remained. Every life saved, every star protected, every world united. It was all part of her legacy. Marcus, standing once more on the bridge of the Valiant Dawn, spoke softly to the crew. "We fight not for victory alone. We fight so no one fears the darkness, so every voice has a chance to be heard. That is the true power of the Deathworlders, and of all who stand with us." The stars twinkled in quiet agreement. The galaxy had changed forever. The last words as the sun set over Seren 4. A human child looked up at the sky, pointing to the stars. "Will they always protect us?" she asked. Marcus knelt beside her. "Not just us," he said. "Everyone. The galaxy has learned something important. Courage, kindness, and unity are stronger than fear. As long as we remember that, we will always be safe." The child smiled, eyes wide with hope. Somewhere among the stars, Lyra's spirit seemed to shine brighter than any sun. The SOS that had called the Deathworlders across the void had not only saved a single planet, it had changed the course of the galaxy forever. And now, at last, a new dawn rose across the stars.